우리들의 이야기를 함께 나누는 스토리 코리아입니다. 미국 조지아주 현대차 공장에서 한국인들이 체포, 구금되는 일이 있었습니다. 이 사건에 대한 미국 현지의 반응들을 모아봤는데요. 한국에서는 쉽게 노출되지 않는 내용들을 그대로 담으려 했고, 각 영상의 촬영 시점이 다르기 때문에 현재 상황과 차이가 있을 수 있습니다. 그럼 체포 당시 현장부터 보시겠습니다.
For this entire construction site, okay? We're Homeland Security. We have a search warrant for the whole site. We need construction to cease immediately. We need all work to end on the site right now. Warrant for this entire construction site, okay? We're Homeland Security. We have a search warrant for the whole site. We need construction to cease immediately. We need all work to end on the site right now.
Do you see this raid at the Hyundai construction site? Well, this woman is allegedly responsible for the raid. So this is Tori Branham, a Republican candidate for Georgia's 12th congressional district, who as a politician should have thought about how shutting down the single biggest economic investment made by a company in Georgia's history would affect her constituents. And according to the report, Tori recruited a Spanish-speaking union worker who had access to the site to become her informant. After hearing rumors of the construction site using undocumented labor and 3 worker deaths at the site, but not everyone that was detained was undocumented. When I first saw her video, I knew that she had no actual sympathy for the workers. All she did was help the Trump administration rip more families apart and financially ruin them for her political gain. Like I said before, this government wants to keep people undocumented so they can be exploited, used as pawns in these political games, and are the ones that end up being blamed for everything while the bosses and corporations get off free.
Al menos 450 inmigrantes fueron arrestados el día de ayer en la planta Hyundai en Georgia. El portavoz de ICE en Atlanta confirmó que la operación se efectuó en el sitio en construcción de la planta. La agencia de ATF confirmó el jueves por la noche la detención de 450 personas durante el operativo encubierto. Testigos informaron que muchas personas trataron de huir de los arrestos escalando las vallas de seguridad de la planta. Otros subieron a los techos, pero al final terminaron detenidos. Mencionaron también que mientras los agentes allanaban el sitio, los patrulleros estatales cerraron el paso de vehículos en la zona, por lo que las personas tampoco pudieron huir en sus vehículos. Según informes de medios locales, el Departamento de Seguridad Pública de Georgia colaboró con la Oficina de Investigaciones de Seguridad Nacional con la ejecución de la orden de registro penal en el operativo que se realizó en la planta.
트럼프 대통령의 발언을 포함한 미국 내의 뉴스 내용도 보시겠습니다.
The Trump administration's immigration raid of a Hyundai facility in Georgia raising fresh concerns for businesses when it comes to the labor force. Megan Casella in Washington with the latest. Megan.
Hey guys, good morning. So this is a prime example here of competing priorities within the Trump administration. This one showing how the president's goals of a massive expansion of foreign investment and U.S. manufacturing could be at odds with his desired crackdown on illegal immigration. So this episode started on Thursday when 475 workers, mostly South Korean nationals, were arrested during an immigration crackdown at a Hyundai electric battery plant under construction in Georgia. Government officials have said it was the largest single-site enforcement operation in history and that hundreds of people arrested were living or working in the U.S. illegally. President Trump then took to Truth Social late yesterday to warn that he is calling on all foreign companies investing in the United States to please respect our nation's immigration laws. He said, your investments are welcome and we encourage you to legally bring your very smart people with great technical talent to build world-class products. Went on to say, what we ask in return is that you hire and train American workers. So that then raises the question, guys, of how many other companies building in the U.S. could be next on the target list. So take a look here. Construction is the top field by far for undocumented workers, employing about 20% of the undocumented workforce. Manufacturing is top 3, food services, retail, you can see the others. So all possible industries here where the White House could be looking for its next crackdown. And there is also, of course, the trade angle as well. South Korea, you'll remember, announced that framework deal just last month for lower tariffs on certain sectors, including cars and semiconductors most notably. That was in exchange for Korea making major investments in the U.S., but none of that has yet been set in stone. So now this episode throws all of it in jeopardy.
it's a battery factory in that case, as I'm told. And, you know, when they're building batteries, if you don't have people in this country right now that know about batteries, maybe we should help them along and let some people come in and train our people to do, you know, complex things, whether it's battery manufacturing or computer manufacturing or building ships. So we're going to look at that whole situation. We have a lot of industries that we don't have anymore, and we're going to have to train people. And the way you train people is bring people in that know what they're doing and let them stay for a little while and help. So I'm going to look at that. It's a very interesting situation that took place in Georgia. And we heard about it yesterday. At the same time, ICE was doing right because they were here illegally. But we do have to work something out where we bring in experts so that our people can be trained so that they can do it themselves. Does that make sense?
Well, people that are in this country illegally need to know right now today that they have an opportunity to go home before they are detained. So many of those individuals that were detained through that operation in Georgia, we are following the law. They are going to be deported. A few of those had criminal activity beyond just being here past final removal orders, and they will face the consequences for that. I think President Trump's message was powerful. His message today that he sent to the world was, listen, our laws will be enforced, and we're encouraging all companies who want to come to the United States and help us our economy and employ people, that we encourage them to employ U.S. citizens and to bring people to our country that want to follow our laws and work here the right way.
시민들은 어떻게 생각할까요?
The one thing you need to know about politics today is that there was a massive immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia, and it is causing major issues between us and one of our key allies, South Korea. Here's what happened. Last Thursday, ICE detained over 400 people at this plant in Georgia. About 300 of them are South Korean. Now, critics basically argue and point to the fact that Donald Trump is saying that he wants to get rid of illegal immigrants, in part because he wants American workers to get those jobs. However, that plant, the whole point of constructing the plant was to bring in more American jobs, was to have more opportunity to revitalize the area. It was a big deal for Georgia. That plant is now on hold. It is unclear when work will continue. Reports say that they wanted to go into production by, next month. And if that doesn't happen, the United States will suffer, right? American jobs will suffer. People will not be able to start working. And so this plan of immigration is backfiring, right? South Korea is pissed. They had also pledged billions of dollars of other investment. Unclear if they will stick with all of that, right? If your friend's gonna hurt you, why are you gonna keep helping your friend? The other thing to point out is that Trump, messaged that he wanted these foreign companies to use American workers when their companies are here. However, American workers don't always have the skills needed. And so these companies, in order to operate here, have to hire people who can actually do the job. I think you're seeing the problem. That's your one thing.
미국 국토안보부의 공식 입장도 들어보겠습니다.
475 people detained by immigration officials at a Hyundai manufacturing site in Elabel, Georgia, Thursday, just west of Savannah. The ATF Atlanta office is posting these images on social media, saying they were there to assist.
This has been a multi-month criminal investigation where we have developed evidence, conducted interviews, gathered documents, and presented that evidence to the court in order to obtain a judicial search warrant.
Department of Homeland Security officials say this was part of an ongoing criminal investigation into allegations of unlawful employment practices and other serious federal crimes. DHS saying it underscores the commitment to protecting jobs for Georgians, ensuring a level playing field for businesses that comply with the law, safeguarding the integrity of our economy, and protecting workers from exploitation.
There are no criminal charges being announced today.
More than 24 people detained are South Korean. The country's foreign ministry voicing, quote, concern and regret over the incident at the plant, which is run by South Korean companies, saying individuals' rights should not be unfairly infringed upon. Meanwhile, in upstate New York on the same day, at least 40 people were detained at a factory that makes specialty nutrition bars.
The workers here, like I said, they're great people. Love every single one of them. We can't do what we do without them.
I won't support effort to separate families. I think it's appalling. I have said all along, I will help the federal government remove people who are threats, that are violent criminals. This is what the president promised during his election. This is what we are told. Go after the worst of the worst. It's all we heard about. And now you have raids.
Now, officials have not provided details on that New York operation, but the local sheriff's office says it was a Department of Homeland Security criminal investigation. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
이번 일에서 화제가 되고 있는 또 한 사람인데요. 자신이 당국에 신고했다고 주장하는 조지아주 연방하원 의원의 출마를 선언한 여성의 영상을 보시겠습니다.
The only people that are mad about this raid in Elabelle, Georgia at the Hyundai mega site are probably people that don't pay taxes. Because in 2022, when they signed the agreement to bring that plant here and build it, they were given $32 million in tax breaks to employ Georgians, and they didn't. The Georgians never were hired temp to permanent. They had more of the people apprehended yesterday were Korean. They either were here illegally, overstayed their visas, or it was illegals working for the contractors and on the site. So they got all these tax cuts and never created jobs for Georgians. They get EPA tax cuts, never had any plans for well infrastructure or water. So the water they're using is in turn drying up farmers' wells. And all these surrounding counties are like, well, we have money put back in case we need to put in new wells. Well, who does that fall back on? The taxpayers. And how many cattle or crop have to die before they get it put in if they have to go in and put in those backup wells? It's not benefiting Georgians. And if you're a taxpayer, it should piss you off. You shouldn't be defending it.
이 여성에 대해서 미국 내에서도 비난의 반응이 많았다고 합니다. 그 후 그녀가 올린 짧은 영상입니다.
Can you imagine threatening someone's life, threatening them on the phone, threatening them on Messenger, threatening their kids, and then when they clap back, you say, oh my God, how dare you talk to me that way? You're running for Congress. You should be more of a Christian when your behavior is anything but Christian. I love it when the atheists lecture people. You know, y'all are the poster children for the mental health reform we need in this country. You really are.
이 여성에 대한 반응들도 보겠습니다.
Charlie Kirk had this to say while he was visiting South Korea last week.
Okay, everybody, I'm here in Seoul, South Korea. As you can see, everyone, they have these like inflatable cushy chairs. Everyone is reading. This would last about 35 seconds in most American cities.
Charlie Kirk saying we should be more like South Korea. I find it absolutely hilarious how just a couple of days later, this lady, Tory Burnham, I don't know, I can't say her last name any better than she can say Hyundai, proceeds to call ICE and has close to 500 people working on the construction of a brand new Hyundai plant in Georgia, one of only 2 in the country, causing them to be detained. And we know that at least 300 are South Koreans that are currently on their way back to South Korea. So this lady single-handedly, at best, has delayed the opening of this plant. At worst, if it was me and I was the South Korean president, I would say, you know what? I'm not going to open that plant there. And, oh, by the way, I'm going to close the only other plant that's in America. Because understand this, the majority of Hyundai's profits don't come from Americans. And then the president saying, maybe we'll just get some people to teach us how to make those batteries. Fuck no, don't teach them. That's proprietary information. Absolutely not. One woman with one phone call has potentially cost Georgians 8,000 jobs, not to mention all of the other potential economic stimulus that comes from these jobs. Good job, lady. Good job. It has to be exhausting being racist.
I don't think William Tecumseh Sherman did as much damage to the state of Georgia as that woman who called ICE on Hyundai and their employees, had them all detained, and now South Korea is throwing a massive fit. They sent their own citizens down to train Americans so that they could be fully functional in this factory. Trump and MAGA complain all the time. Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? They're overseas. Bring them back to America. And then when we finally do, some dumbass, bitch-ass idiot calls ICE and has these people detained. Now South Korea has sent a plane, picked up all their asses, and who knows if they're ever coming back. This is going to take 8,000 plus jobs away from the state of Georgia. and possibly many more. And all this manufacturing that they would have had, all the money this would have generated for the state of Georgia and our country is now potentially gone. And that may just be that little portion. There could be more significant backlash coming from South Korea, Hyundai, any other South Korean company who was thinking of bringing jobs over to America is going to think twice now because some idiot decided to call ICE. They decided to call ICE on these people and have 400 plus human beings who have done nothing illegal detained. Good job. And this woman is running, I believe, for Congress. Yeah, have fun with that. Republican, Democrat, whatever. I can't imagine anybody in the state of Georgia is on board with what that foolish person did. So, yeah, Sherman may have burned his way to Atlanta, but you set Georgia ablaze as well.
시민들의 목소리를 이어서 들어보겠습니다.
Oh, South Korea is none too happy. Their £350 billion investment, their plant, Hyundai, in Georgia has come to a standstill because Tory Branham, a local candidate for Senate from Georgia, reported them for illegal immigration. Now, ICE swooped in on Friday and detained 475 people. They not only frisked them, they shackled them. Out of these people, 300 were South Korean nationals. This was actually a very crucial time because South Korea is already in talks with Trump about further investments into the country, which I think may well be now in question. I think the South Koreans are feeling that this is going to dampen relationships. Now, of course, 300 of those South Koreans are being flown back by chartered flight by their government. They were on visas. They were here in their skilled abilities to set up the plant in readiness for it to recruit the locals. That doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon because there's going to be delays. Quite obviously. So it seems like a swoop that was perhaps ill-informed, based on false information. It shows perhaps the hidden agenda, which quite worrying.
I wanted to see how this was being reported in the South Korean press, and you can see this line right here. 전쟁처럼, like a war. Stormed in like a war. And so basically what's being said in the South Korean media is that it's being likened to a war zone, cites reports on the suddenness and scale of the operation, and highlights the backlash and frustration that legal or short-term business travelers are being treated as undocumented. So noting that many of these workers had B1 visas or ESTA permits. I think this story is going to build. I think this is a situation where these actions are going to have significant impacts on our relationship with South Korea, on South Korean investment in the United States, on business travel and collaboration between the U.S. and other countries. What do you think?
이번 영상에서 준비한 내용은 여기까지입니다. 여러분의 의견도 나누어 주세요. 이 사건과 관련해서 새로운 현지 반응들이 나오면 추가 영상을 올리겠습니다. 그럼 다른 해외 반응 영상에서 다시 인사드릴게요. 감사합니다.